With the talk of Alberta independence and nationalism in the mainstream media this week, all we've heard is that Donald Trump is a very bad man, anyone who wants Alberta independence is treasonous, and all you Albertans should just get back in line and go back to the status quo. The status quo is good for you. Don't fight the system, and be very afraid of all those bad people. There's lots of rhetoric, lots of talk, but I've never heard one of these Federalists propose a solution to the grievances that Albertans are feeling right now. Not a single one. It's very hard to talk about only one grievance because all the grievances are intertwined and interconnected. You can't talk about equalization without talking about the provincial seat breakdown in Parliament. You can't talk about equalization without discussing the distribution of Senate seats across Canada. They're intimately connected. If you look at graphs showing the provincial seat distribution in Parliament, the provincial senatorial seat distribution, and how the provinces receive money, you'll notice a similar pattern. The areas with the most seats in power tend to get the most money. You can call it tyranny of the majority, but that's the way things work. What makes it different in Canada is that our seats are not evenly distributed. The seats across Canada have a different number of voters in each one. In the Maritimes, it's about 65,000 people per seat, and in Alberta, it's about 135,000 per seat. So if you were to look across Canada, take 342 seats and split them evenly across the population, you'd notice a few different things. Ontario would actually get more seats. They'd get 12 more. BC and Alberta would each gain 4. Quebec would lose 3. Manitoba would lose 2. Saskatchewan would lose 4. The Maritimes, though, would be the big loser. Nova Scotia would lose 2. New Brunswick could lose 3. Newfoundland and Labrador would lose 2. Prince Edward Island would lose 3. It would be quite the power shift in Canada because Ontario would get more power and Alberta and British Columbia would also get more seats and more power. Quebec and the Maritimes would lose power. What you need to balance that tyranny of the majority in Parliament is equal and fair distribution of senators by region or province across Canada. Instead of having the system the way it is now, where most of the senators are in the east, Ontario 24, Quebec 24, the Maritimes 30, and Manitoba West only 27, each province should have 10 senators. So whenever Ontario and Quebec wanted to bring in a law that's beneficial primarily to them, you would only need 6 provinces to oppose it to make it stop. The senators, instead of being the house of sober second thought, would effectively become a provincial opposition voice against the federal government. They would stand against the tyranny of the majority overruling the rest of the country. Now, honestly, that's not a perfect solution. The system would not fix everything, but it would give each province equal power in the Senate and split the parliament seats evenly and properly according to population, as it's supposed to be in a democracy. Now, why isn't this happening? Why isn't Jason Kenney or Thomas Lukaszuk proposing this as a solution? Why aren't the Federalists proposing constitutional reform that equalizes all the provinces and ensures an equal vote split across the country? Because they know it will never, ever happen. Right now, the power is concentrated in the East. They have all the say, they have a majority of the votes, and they're taking a lot of the money. Why would they give that up? At Davos, Mark Carney said, the strong will do what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. That's the system we have in Canada. The strong, centralized power structure in the East that has the power is taking the wealth of the West and distributing it to themselves. It's not nice, it's not pretty, it isn't fair, but that's what's happening. The strong do what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. The East is strong, and the West is going to suffer. If you hear a Federalist saying, oh, Albertans shouldn't talk about what's important to them, or, oh, Albertans shouldn't work for reform, ask them what their solution is. Because they won't have one. Because until the East gives up its power and its ability to profit from the West, there will never be any change. The system is completely unreformable because the people who don't have power and want power can only get it if the people who have it give it up peacefully. And they're not going to do that because they're making too much money the way the system is now. There's only one way out for Alberta, and that is a vote for independence.